Recently, I thought, let's experiment with something. Maybe viewers will submit a scene from one of their scripts, and I can talk about what's working and not working, and even rework it a bit. So I did, and you sent stuff in. So very cool. So thank you for doing that. And while I can't do everyone's, obviously, I did choose one that I thought would be good to cover in a short-ish video. So if you've ever wondered, how do I approach fixing a scene? We're doing that today. There are several links below. There's even one about how you can support this channel using Patreon. All of those are down, so be sure to check those out. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you find value at any point in this video. Let's jump in. Before we get on the computer and look at the scene, there's a couple of things I want to note. One, I'm going to note a couple of things that are being done well, but we're also focusing on things to improve and why they should be improved. So I'll point out what I'm seeing, why that's an issue, and we'll talk about how to fix it. None of my notes are personal though, so just be aware of that. This is all about the script, and one thing you have to learn as a writer is how to receive notes without them feeling personal. Now that doesn't apply just to the script that I've chosen for this video. It applies to every writer, every script all the time. So you just kind of have to learn to kind of be impersonal with your script. You got to distance yourself from your script a little bit. Last, I chose the script because it exhibited some common issues that I see in a lot of new writers, both in my students and clients, but there's also some things that are being done well, and I want to talk about those too. So we're going to talk about both the good and the bad. Okay, to the computer. The scene we're looking at is a scene submitted by Alex Merelo. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. There's no title, so we're going to call it post-apocalyptic. Just for now, it's a story takes place in a post-apocalyptic future. Alex included this little bit of background. We've got Ari and Lynn. Ari's a guy, Lynn's a girl, looking for someone they believe to be inside a compound. Lynn used to work there. The two have led a group of refugees into the compound to get in. So that's kind of the context of what's happened before. They've led some refugees in. So now we're going to be in the scene, and though to Lynn's surprise, this particular site's undergone some changes, there is some heightened security. So that's kind of the setup. So what I'm going to do, I'll put this scene up here. And I'm going to just kind of pause. I'll scroll a little slowly. I'm not going to take a lot of time, so if you need to pause to read, then just hit pause on the thing, and then when you're ready, keep going. So I'll scroll through slowly so you can see the rest of the scene. Okay, so here we are. This is our scene. I'm gonna back out here a little bit so we can see the whole page, because I want to comment on a couple of things that are good. So one of the things that I want to note right off the bat is the white space. White space is really good on this page. It makes the page automatically feel a little breezy, that it's going to be quick to go through. So that's a good thing. Another thing that's good is Alex is trying to control the pace of the read through the punctuation. So we've got some parentheticals in here, which kind of help a little bit. There's some of these ellipses in here, some dashes, just lots of different things to try to help control the read. There's even some of this dual dialogue, which I'm going to jump into here in a second. And it is fine, and it's helpful because it helps break things up and it lets us know what's going on. Now, if you're not familiar with this, most screenwriting software lets you set up dual dialogue. The implication is that both of these characters are speaking at the same time, so they're kind of like talking over each other at the same moment. Another thing that's good is I also know whose scene it is. This is Ari's scene. It's very clear right off the bat. We're getting Ari's point of view, and it stays Ari's point of view throughout, which is also really good. And there's some clear tension between Ari and Lynn. So lots of good things going on. Now there's a couple of things I want to address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my screenwriting software because I reworked this scene, just retyped it exactly as it is. In mine, the spacings jumps to a page 2, but that's going to be okay. We're going to solve that here in a second. I want to deal with the dual dialogue first. So if you're using dual dialogue, this is one thing that you need to be aware of. When you have dual dialogue that's like this, really close to one another, the problem is it's going to be confusing for the reader because I've got Ari here, and then on the next time it's Lynn. So they're reversed. So when you're kind of reading it in your head, some of you, even as you were reading it, might have gotten confused, like, oh wait, this is Ari, this is Len. So the easy way to fix that is if you've got it close. So if they're close on the page, like they are here, is you want to just make sure that the same person is on the same side. So what I would do is I would undual dialogue these. I would flip these things around, and it's going to show like continued and stuff, and then I would remake them as dual dialogue, and now they're all the same on the page. So this will just help clarify for the reader. So just something little, and I'm starting with some of the little simple things, and we're going to get to the bigger things here in a moment. One other thing to note is the scene heading, which I want to just talk about very briefly. Normally what you want to do in scene headings is you want to go from bigger to smaller. So if I'm at somebody's house, this is like Jack's house, bedroom, Jack's house, living room. But here we've got it backward. It's mess hall at Lake Lodge. So what I would actually rather do is flop this around. So we're at Lake Lodge, mess hall. That way, if I needed to go somewhere else, Lake Lodge, janitor closet, Lake Lodge dorms, Lake Lodge whatever, at least helps the reader know these are all in the same general location, even though they're not the same location. It's like, hey, all of this is all the stuff at the compound here, this Lake Lodge. So that's one thing to kind of help note. So usually you want to go bigger to smaller. One of the other things that I want to note here is we don't really get a good sense of what the space looks like. I mean, we start on Ari, which is fine on one hand, but I haven't been in this location before, so I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what the layout is. I don't know what's going on. So that's definitely something that we want to address when we revise it. So hopefully you notice I'm starting small for a minute because I want to just focus on, here's a couple of easy, like quick things. You just kind of know, like, take care of these. So when you're in a new location, give us a lowdown of what the location is. Make sure your scene headings are good and all that. So now let me just kind of pull this apart a little bit more. And one of the things that I want to note that you probably noted as you were reading it is the dialogue, even though the words are different, even though they're talking about different things, it feels like we're talking about the same beat over and over. I've got the armed guards. You gonna control that? They're breathing down our necks. Are you sure? It's like a prison. Like, it's the same kind of thing over and over and over again. And you don't really want to do that. So we're going to try to address that here when we clean this up. The other thing is the dialogue itself kind of feels a little on the nose. It just feels, I don't want to really use the word corny, but on the nose dialogue kind of feels a little corny. Sometimes it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel genuine. The other thing that's an issue with this scene kind of on a broader context is there's not really a direction forward. I mean, I can't imagine what the next scene is. I go down here, read this. Hey, we've got Ari's a little troubled. She's going to be like, it's going to be okay. I mean, I'm guessing we're going to go talk to friends. I'm guessing we're going to go try to find somebody, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to anticipate. And the reason anticipation is good is because if you go somewhere different, it makes the audience engage more in the story. So I want to anticipate something coming. So maybe I anticipate, oh, okay, we're going to go meet these friends in the next scene and everything's going to be okay. Only to go meet the friends in the next scene and it's not okay, right? So you're giving me an expectation and then changing the expectation. So you kind of want to give expectations as you're moving from scene to scene. So I don't really know what the direction is. And that really gets at the core issue of the scene and why it doesn't feel right. When you start looking at it, you have to think of a scene exactly like you think of a story. Someone who wants something badly, they're having trouble getting it, they get it or they don't. So in this scene, like, what is it that Ari wants? And does he get it or not? Well, I don't know. I mean, there's no direction forward. The dialogue feels a little on the nose in some ways, probably because there's not as much direction as there needs to be. I don't really know what Ari's wanting, and as a result, we're like trying to drive home the point, like, hey, there's a little bit of tension here, but I don't know what he's wanting. I don't know where he's going. So that kind of makes me feel a little uneasy. It makes the scene sprawl a little bit, gives me more dialogue than what I need, and I don't really want to do that. I want to tighten things up a lot. So we have to get to the want of the scene to give it some arc and to give it a little bit of story. And Ari isn't the only one who's got to have a want. because he's got to have trouble getting it. So Lynn also has to have a want. There needs to be some conflict and tension, which is there. It's there a little bit. I mean, you read it, it's like it's there. Okay, there is some tension. There is some conflict, and I noted that's one of the good things. You can kind of feel that tension there, which is a good thing. But it needs to be clarified so that the scene can just work better. And this is really what you have to do with your own scenes when you address them. You've got to ask questions like, whose scene is it? What do they want? Who or what is keeping them from getting it? And you have to start with those things. Every scene, you got to start with those. Whose scene is it? What do they want? Are they having trouble getting it? Do they get it or they not? If you start with those, you're going to have a much better scene. Now, you don't want to get rid of the things that are working, and you want to keep the important story beats, but you do want to eliminate whatever other chaff is there. So really, here are the story beats that are at play. Okay, we're in this mess hall. Ari is uncomfortable and wants to leave. Lynn wants to blend in to make a good impression so that they're undetected, and the direction is they want to find their friends. So Ari is uncomfortable. Ari wants to leave. Lynn wants to stay. That is a very simple conflict where one is wanting something that the other is going to oppose. Ari wants to leave. Lynn wants to stay, wants to blend in. And then we're going to go find the friends. Well, if we blend in and they stop looking at us, it's going to be okay. So we can do a lot of things here to heighten the tension in the scene. Before I get to the actual fixing, because what we're going to do, I'm going to rework the scene here. And so before we get to that, if you're finding value, interact in some way, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If this is something that you think I should do on a regular basis on this channel, like if you're like, oh, this is actually really helpful, drop a comment below. If it's not, drop a comment below so I know, like, hey, I should do this, I shouldn't do this. Again, I just want to be helpful to you. So if you think this is helpful to you, then please let me know. If you want to be a regular feature, drop it in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching. All right, so as we look at this scene, there's a couple of things we want to do. One, we want to clarify the setting a little bit better. So we definitely want to clarify the setting. We also want to clarify the wants of the scene. So Ari wants to do what they plan to do, wants to find the friends, wants to get out of there. Like, let's go do that as fast as possible. Let's get out of here. I don't like it. Lynn wants to take her time. She wants to blend in, not draw suspicion. So what we're going to do, we're going to say that Lynn gets her want in the scene, that she's able to settle Ari down. We're going to stay here, but Ari's going to be able to communicate why he wants to leave so quickly. We also want the dialogue to not be as on the nose, so we're going to create a metaphor here, and we'll figure that out. We also want to imply the next scene, where we're going, what's going to happen, plus anything we can do to heighten the stakes, so we're going to do that. So let's get into reworking the scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to try to explain some things as we're going very simply, and then I'll have this up here and you can kind of read through the scene. But these are those fixing the scene things. Those are the things that we're really wanting to address. So here's a way to fix this scene. So first we're going to address the setting. What you need to do, just give it a better setting. We're going to add some tension here with just some more guards, maybe some cameras, just people watching. Give us some tension. And since it's stew and has a lot of beans, let's make those a metaphor for the guards. Typically in dialogue, you underline for emphasis instead of italicize. It's just a little bit of subtext. And we're also going to remove this big chunk of dialogue. I need something to here to show direction. That's why I'm pausing. I'm trying to think of something to put here. Guards are on the way. Your stew, it'll be fine. Flips over her hand to reveal a key card. And then we get a little bit about some implication for the next scene. What we're trying to do here, so I made this a little longer, but I'm trying to get everything in here. This is just a real quick first draft. I'd probably tighten this up quite a bit. We're trying to do all these things. We want to clarify the setting. So here we go, clarifying the setting. We want to make sure the wants are very clear. Ari wants to leave. He's not happy being there. Plus we want to ratchet up the tension. In the original, there's only 2 guards. So we need to add more guards. There needs to be more tension, plus the cameras in the corners. Now I don't know, maybe there's not cameras here. So Alex, you might want to add some more people in here or something, just something to heighten the tension. People are watching them. And that's making us nervous. It's making Ari nervous. And Lynn seems uncharacteristically calm, even though she's still a little nervous. So that just kind of helps us understand what's going on a little bit better, and it helps amp up the tension. There's nothing really on the nose, okay? It's just they're kind of talking around things. The only thing really on the nose is this one right here, this last thing, which, you know, hey, there's information, 5 minutes transpo shed. It's like, that's easy to do, so that's okay. And it implies the next scene. It's like, okay, we're going to be at the transpo shed, next scene, key card's going to get used, and they're going to go somewhere. So it's just implying what's going to happen. And these are all things that really just kind of help heighten the scene. Now, ideally, I'd probably still want it to be a little tighter. But that said, I'm not sure what all's gone before, what's coming after. This is obviously not the first time that we're meeting these characters. So yeah, we're capitalizing them here, but they probably wouldn't be capitalizing this because this isn't the first time we're meeting these characters. So we were understanding who they are, what's going on. So some of this tension might already be there. So we could probably pull some of this out, especially this conversation right here. We almost can probably pull that out based on what's happened before. If we hint at the tension beforehand, okay, that's going to be fine. We won't really need to worry about it. It's just burly guard stirring the stew. He's swirling his thing, and he's a little nervous. It's your stew. It's going to be fine. For the like, that's really all we need. Okay, so we can kind of move along. As I reflected further, there's still not enough going on, so I reworked the scene one more time. And I'm happier with this version, but I'd probably still tweak it some more. What's better about this version is a goal is achieved in the scene, and it moves the story forward, but things are also made more difficult. So those are some good things, and depending on what other scenes are around it, would impact additional revisions. If you want to do a deeper dive on scenes and scene work, there is an entire section on writing scenes in my course, the Screenwriting Fast Track, as well as other sections on things like dialogue and character building and a bunch of others. That would be a great place to start if you want more information. So that's the screenwriting course I wish I would have had when I was started out learning the craft. Screenwriting Fast Track, link is below. Be sure to check that out. Hopefully this one scene challenge has been helpful to you. If it has, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell. And if you like this and want more of these, drop comments below so I know, like, hey, do this more often, and we will explore that in the future. So thank you to all of you who submitted your script. Sorry I can't get to everybody, but hopefully this was helpful to you. So again, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. When you go to tell a story that matters. See you later.